where the ocean meets the sky. In the quaint coastal town of Eloria, where the sea whispered secrets to the shore and the sky blushed every evening with the setting sun, lived a young woman named Alara. She worked as a marine biologist, spending her days diving into the deep blue, studying coral reefs, and writing papers few would read but all would benefit from. Though surrounded by beauty, Alara often felt a quiet emptiness, like something, or someone, was missing. One summer morning, while inspecting a tide pool, she noticed a stranger sketching on the cliffs. He was tall, with sun-kissed skin and messy dark hair that danced in the sea breeze. He wore a loose white shirt, smudged with charcoal. His name was Kale, a traveling artist in search of inspiration. They spoke only briefly that day, but Alara found herself returning to the cliffs more often. Kale, in turn, began sketching by the tide pools more frequently. Their conversations grew from pleasantries to deep confessions of childhood dreams, lost loves, and fears buried beneath ambition. Kale's art captured the ocean in a way that startled Alara. It wasn't just water or light he painted, it was memory, emotion, the sacred hush of the sea at night. Alara shared her research with him, and Kale listened with the attentiveness of someone who saw the world not in numbers or facts, but feelings. One evening, under a violet sky, Kale took Alara to a hidden cove lit by bioluminescent plankton. The water glowed with every movement, as if the stars had fallen into the sea. "I've been to many places," Kale said, "but this is the first time I've ever wanted to stay." Alara's heart fell. She had always believed love should be calm and steady, like a lighthouse, but Kale was a storm she wanted to surrender to. Their love blossomed like wildflowers in softest wind. They built a small studio by the sea, part laboratory, part art gallery. People from around the world came to see Kale's paintings and hear Alara's stories of the ocean. Together, they created something neither could have done alone, a space where science meets soul. Years passed, and though time left silver in their hair and creases around their eyes, the love between them only deepened. Every anniversary, Kale would take Alara back to the glowing cove, where they'd float in silence, watching the water come alive. When Kale grew ill, Alara stayed by his side, reading to him from old journals and holding his hand through the night. His final sketch was of her, standing by the ocean, face lit by the stars, waiting for him. After he passed, Alara continued their work. She transformed their studio into a sanctuary for young scientists and artists. His paintings still lined the walls, and when the tide was just right, the cove would still glow, reminding her that some love stories don't end. They simply change shape. And every evening, as the sun dipped low and the sea kissed the sky, Alara would whisper to the wind, "Where you are, my heart will follow." The song of distant shores. In a quiet coastal town where seagulls cried and waves whispered secrets to the shore, lived a young woman named Alara. She owned a small bookshop named Seaglass Pages, nestled between a bakery and an old lighthouse. The scent of salt and parchment followed her everywhere, and her smile, though soft, had a depth that hinted at long-forgotten dreams. Every evening, she sat on a bench near the edge of the cliffs, reading love poems to the wind as though hoping someone might be listening. One autumn morning, as golden leaves drifted through the air, a stranger entered her shop. He wore a navy coat, slightly worn, and carried an old leather satchel filled with sheet music. His name was Adrian, an ex-traveling musician returning to the town where his grandmother once lived. "Do you have any books on sea legends?" he asked, his voice calm but distant. Alara led him to a corner of the shop with dusty shelves and nautical tales. Their conversation started with myths, but quickly unraveled into stories of music, the ache of missing someone, and dreams they had both buried. Adrian came every day after that, sometimes buying books, sometimes just to talk. Alara began to notice the way he looked at the ocean, not with wonder, but with longing, as if something he loved had been taken by the tide. One day, she asked, "What did you lose to the sea?" Adrian hesitated, then replied, "My brother. We used to travel the world together, performing. One night during a storm in Greece, he dove in after a girl who'd fallen overboard. He never came back." The silence that followed was not empty, it was full of shared grief. Alara, too, had lost someone, her fiancé, a sailor who never returned from his final voyage. Grief became the bridge between them, and over the weeks, they built something fragile but beautiful. Alara showed Adrian the hidden trails along the cliffs, and he played her songs he once wrote for no one. She read him poetry, and he rewrote them into melodies. Winter came with silver waves and distant thunder. The town quieted under snow and wind, but Alara's heart felt warmer than it had in years. She had fallen for him, not suddenly, but like a sunrise, slow and certain. On the first day of spring, Adrian took her hand and said, "I've been invited to play in Florence. A new chance, but I don't want to leave you." She looked at him, heart torn. "Then don't." "But I need to go. For him, for me. To stop running from music and memories." She nodded, trying not to cry. "Then go. But promise me you'll come back." "I will," he whispered, pressing a kiss to her forehead. "For you, I will always come back." He left the next morning. Weeks passed. Letters arrived. Then months. Then silence. Alara returned to her cliffside bench, reading poems aloud again, but now they were letters she wrote to him, unsent, unread, but full of hope. On the anniversary of his departure, she sat beneath a sky bruised with twilight. Wind tousled her hair as she read. "If love is the ocean, then I will wait upon this shore, again and again, until your sails return." Suddenly, a note of music drifted through the air. She turned. There he was, Adrian, coat flapping in the wind, guitar slung over his back, eyes brighter than any memory. "I missed your voice," he said. "And your poems. And you." She ran to him, and he caught her, the sea roaring behind them as if cheering. "I came back," he said breathlessly. "For you. Always for you." And from that day on, Seaglass Pages had two owners, a poet and a musician. Their love was quiet, like the sea at dusk, but it sang louder than any storm. Where the Stars Fell. In the quiet village of Eldon Ridge, nestled between misty hills and sleepy rivers, lived a young woman named Alara. She worked as a librarian in the town's only library, a place filled with forgotten books, dusty journals, and the scent of old paper. Alara had always been content with the rhythm of her life, mornings spent arranging books, afternoons lost in literature, and evenings watching the stars from her attic window. But everything changed one rainy spring day when a stranger arrived. His name was Selim, a travel photographer with stories from cities Alara could only dream of. He came to Eldon Ridge to capture its untouched beauty and, seeking shelter from the storm, stumbled into the library. Their eyes met over a copy of Wuthering Heights, and something shifted in the air, an unspoken pull, gentle and strange. Days turned to weeks. Selim kept returning, borrowing books, asking questions, lingering longer each time. Alara, though shy and careful, began to open up. They talked about art, stars, forgotten myths. He showed her photos from Mongolia, Morocco, Iceland. In return, she shared with him stories from the books she loved, tales of knights, broken hearts, and timeless love. One golden afternoon, as they stood under a willow tree beside the river, Selim turned to her and said, "You are the comb I've never known." Alara's heart skipped. She realized then that she'd fallen, not suddenly, but like the slow wind of spring after a long winter. But love, like seasons, must weather change. As summer drew near, Selim received news of a new assignment, 6 months in the Arctic Circle. He asked Alara to come with him. She hesitated. Her whole life was in Eldon Ridge, the library, her father, her quiet world. Torn between comfort and courage, she made the hardest choice she'd ever faced. Selim left. They promised to write. And they did, for a while. But as months passed, the letters grew fewer. Alara, though heartbroken, held on. She would still climb to her attic window at night and whisper to the stars, hoping he'd do. 3 years passed. One evening, just as the first snow began to fall, Alara found an old envelope slipped under the library door. It was from Selim. "I've seen 1,000 sunsets, Alara, but none as bright as the one in your eyes. but smiling like the day they met. No words were needed. She ran into his arms. And under a sky full of falling stars, they began again.